Now let me welcome on to the Top Dogs podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. CJ Moore, one of the guys, and I say this 100% truthfully, I'm normally breaking CJ's balls about everything, but he's one of the guys in media whose basketball opinion and X's and O's opinion I actually trust and I actually listen to. He does his homework, he watches the film, he knows what he's looking at, and he writes for The Athletic. CJ, what's going on, man? It's good to see you.
I don't know how to react to you actually saying nice things about me.
Well, since you're giving me your time, I figured I can't be mean to you yet.
Yeah.
That'll come later in the show.
Yeah.
So you write for The Athletic. You do a lot of Kansas State, Wichita State kind of content and cover them. I think you know Kansas as well as anybody in college basketball. So let me start you off with this. They are sitting here at 5-1 on the season. They are ranked in the top 5. They're in the top 5 on KenPom. They have Bill Self. They have one of the best players in college basketball, if not the best player in college basketball. And it feels like people are kind of worried about this group because of one loss out in Maui. How do you feel about Kansas big picture based off of what we thought they were coming in and what we've seen from them so far through 6 games?
Well, it's Kansas, so anytime there's a loss, it's like the sky is probably falling. But I think it's a good team. I mean, I think the concerns about them are their outside shooting and their depth coming into the year. Those concerns have been warranted, I think, by watching the games. I think they're old. Their 4 old dudes are really, really good. And they need to get more out of the bench. Nick Timberlake's been really bad so far. He looks like a freshman. He looks like he's not ready for that level. He's super nervous. Has no confidence. I think Johnny Furphy's got some ability and has a chance to be pretty good down the road, but he's just not quite ready yet, not quite strong enough. And then Marco Jackson hasn't been great so far. He's got some ability, but he's got no confidence in his jumper. And they actually got a little bit of something out of I'm blanking on the kid's name just because
Jamari McDowell.
Jamari McDowell. Yeah, I've been watching too many games. But Jamari McDowell, he got out there in Maui, and I don't think he realized that he was in a Kansas game in the Maui Invitational and what stage he was on. And he was I don't think he had any idea where he was supposed to be on the floor, but he hooped a little bit and gave them just another guy they could have out there with some athleticism. So that was a good development. We'll see if that was more than just a 1 or 2 game thing. But I think it's a really, really good passing team. They know who they are. They know where they should play through. It's just they're maybe a little bit limited by their shooting and their bench, but they're still a really good basketball team.
Yeah, I tried to put that in context for people. Marquette is really, really good, right?
Yeah,
Marquette is probably top 2, top 3 team in America right now based off of what they've done. A lot
probably
of
the
teams are
hardest
going
to guard.
yeah, and a lot of teams are going to lose to them, right? And Kansas is still sitting here with a win over a very good Kentucky team and a win over a very good Tennessee team. So it's not like the sky is falling by any stretch of the imagination. You mentioned Nick Timberlake, and I do want to talk about him here early. It feels weird that we have a Hunter Dickinson, Bill Self-led team, and we're talking about Nick Timberlake first. But he was a guy that back in April, a lot of UConn fans thought was going to end up at UConn and commit to UConn after his visit, and he ended up at Kansas. That kind of led to UConn having a chance to get Cam Spencer, which has worked out really well for the Huskies. But what's the issue with Nick? Is it, to me from the outside, it just looks like a confidence thing, right? It looks like he just doesn't have the belief in himself to be able to succeed at that level. The way that Doug Gottlieb phrased it when I was talking to him about it was like a guy moving up from the silver level to the gold level of AAU, where he's just not quite ready for the length and athleticism and speed of the game.
Yeah, I think he's actually a pretty good athlete. He's fairly
Mm-hmm.
bouncy, and he kind of can surprise you with his athleticism. But I just think it's 100% confidence, and it's also the Bill Self offense is a lot to process and to try to figure out in a small amount of time. That's why I said he's like a freshman out there. I think that from being able to pick up the concepts and where he's supposed to be and that stuff, I think there's just too much going on upstairs. And then his confidence, when you get out in a game, a high level game, and if you're not confident, I feel like he's struggling to even catch a ball on the move type thing. It's just, there's too much going on upstairs and there's a lack of confidence, and maybe that comes down the road. But he was they went and got him to be able to catch him, make shots, or spot up from with, because Hunter Dickinson's going to see so much attention, and he hasn't really been able to do that yet. Minus like one, there was one non-conference game, maybe North Carolina Central. I can't remember. They kind of run together, where he hit some threes and looked good, but that was in a game where they were going to win by 1,000,000 no matter what. So he hit in any kind of games where there's been game pressure, he hasn't been very good.
Yeah. What's the answer there? Because to me, that's the entire key to this Kansas season. And I know it's crazy to say that after 6 games, again, on a team with Bill Self and Hunter Dickinson and DeJuan Harris and Kevin McCullough, who, by the way, has been sensational, right? But if you don't have that one guy that can kind of pull defenses away, if you're basically playing 4-on-5 because you don't have someone at that spot that needs to be guarded that isn't doing something else, I don't know how you can be a national championship caliber team. Does that make sense? Like, there's going to be somebody at some point that can exploit that one weakness in your roster. And then you're basically one injury away from somebody else to the point where it's like, okay, now you got 3 guys that you can trust out there, which is not the answer to anybody's to the way that you want to play.
We might be talking about the wrong guy, honestly. Like, I think Johnny Furphy's better. I think he's more talented, and is that
what it is? Just let him play through the freshman mistakes?
Probably. Like, I think Furphy's the guy that it's going to have to be, at least the first guy off the bench. Like, he's more talented. He can really shoot it too, but he's dealing with the same thing. Confidence, too much going on out there. It's just kind of got to slow down for him. But I think he has more feel and like kind of a better sense of how to play off guys than Timberlake does. I mean, I think Timberlake, it's kind of like coming from a high school situation where you were the dude and you took all the shots and stuff was run for you and you didn't really have to guard. I think Furphy's got more. I think his transition to high level basketball might be an easier one. And if the dude's like, he's tall, he's a legit, like, I think they list him at 6'9", like he's at least 6'8". He's got really, really good size. I think that has to be the dude. And then Elmarco Jackson's got to at some point be able to step up and make some shots. Like, I think he's doing okay in some other areas. But he has, I haven't looked at their shooting percentages lately, but let's see.
He's 1 for 8 from 3.
He's 1 of 8 in against T1 teams. I don't know what he did against Chaminade, but I'm sure you're looking at KenPom just like I am. And those Chaminade numbers aren't baked in there. So yeah, he's got to step up and make some shots too. And he can, like, I've seen him shoot. I mean, you saw him on the Under Armour circuit. Like, he's not an awesome shooter, but he's capable. So I think they just need time and reps really in games. And those guys, they're going to get a play because somebody else has to play besides the 4-year-old guys. You can't play 4-on-5. So we'll see. But the 4-year-old dudes are pretty good and all playing pretty well. I think, the only thing you really would critique them is maybe McCullough's turnovers are pretty high. And I read about that this week. I think it's because they're trying to throw it into Dickinson so much, you're going to turn it over someone. You're force feeding it into the post.
Yeah, and it's also he's being asked to have so much offense run through him that it's kind of a byproduct of being a focal point, right? Like, turnovers are going to come with that. Maybe clean some of it up and get he's averaging like 4.5. Is that right? Something like that.
His turnover rate's pretty high. He had 18 in Maui. That's a lot in 3 games. And his shot's important too. Like, he needs to shoot it well. That's why he's back in school, like, to show that he can shoot. He's doing everything else. Let's see, he's 7 of 20 in D1 against D1 competition so far. 35%, you honestly take that. If he can be in the 35 to 40 range, like that's a win for Kansas.
Yeah, to me, the biggest red flag for this group is that the 2 guys that you probably trust the most to hit a jump shot right now are DeJuan Harris and Hunter Dickinson, and like, those are also the 2 guys that you want running your pick and rolls. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and if you decide you want to put Kevin McCullough in a ball screen, like, teams will not guard DeJuan Harris and just kind of dare him to make shots. And if he hits 5, then he hits 5 and you lose, right? So that, to me, that's the biggest concern. Yeah, and DeJuan Harris doesn't want to take shots. Like, he doesn't want to shoot. But if you leave him wide open, he has proven. I mean, like, it's almost, almost just want to see what he does on his first one. And if he makes it, you start guarding him. And if he doesn't, you probably continue to sag off him. But he needs a lot of time to get it off because he has a really, really low release and it's slow. But like, if you don't guard him like Kentucky did, then
you keep going under ball screens, like eventually he'll take them, and he can make them.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the big fellow. Let's talk about Hunter Dickinson. I made the argument that he was the best transfer in the history of college basketball. At minimum, he's the most decorated transfer in the history of college basketball. And he's averaging like 21 and 12. He's shooting 70% from three. I think that he is playing at a national player of the year level. It's probably Zach Edey, but I think Hunter is right there with him. And I don't know how much more you could ask out of him. And I don't know how much more he can do to be able to reach the level that you want him to reach, right? Like he's been sensational, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's been really, really good. He's been as good as advertised. I think all of us who watch college basketball, who have watched Hunter Dickinson play, who have watched Kansas play, was like, wow, that's a really perfect pairing. And wow, it's been a really perfect pairing. I mean, the numbers are ridiculous. The fact that he is making threes is a big development, and I think is going to be important in this game. Because watching what Connecticut does with Clingan, they're in a pretty deep drop with him. And if you engage him in the drop and you pitch it back out to the center as Indiana did, like there's time and space to make those shots. So he likes shooting it kind of in that top circle area. So that's going to be really important in this game is can he make some shots? And also, I'll be interested to see, does Connecticut bring a double? It seemed like in the Indiana game, they brought a double when Caravan was on the guarding in the post, but I think they did maybe one time when Clingan was guarding the post. If I'm Connecticut, I'm going to see if he can just wall up and try to make Hunter make shots over the top of him, which is pretty hard to do. So that matchup is going to be fascinating. But yeah, Hunter's been really, really good. They're doing their Kansas thing. They're high low. They're getting angled entries into the post, and he's got what he's really, really good at is catching it high and just getting it off fast. Like he's got such great hands and such great touch. He's been a tremendous fit so far in Self's offense.
Yeah, I think the two things that he does best offensively are the two things that can be are where Clingan is not at his best defensively. Like Clingan is great when it comes to the drop coverage. He's great at walling up. He's great at taking away basically a 12-foot radius around the basket because I call him the Great Wall of Bristol, right? Like he's just so big and long and really understands how to be able to use.
Don't they play in stores?
Yeah, well, he's from Bristol, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
The Great Wall of Bristol. But he's just so good at like utilizing his length and his size and just being kind of big and in the way, right?
Yeah.
But he has very high hips, and part of the reason why like he can kind of struggle to score in the post is he just when you have that high of a center of gravity, it's hard to kind of establish position, right? And Hunter is great at kind of putting his ass in somebody and just sitting down and kind of creating that space and creating that angle and being able to just catch it and score. So I think that he has a little bit of an advantage there. And I think that he'll also have, like you said, the advantage in the pick and pops, right? When you're playing that deep drop, that's what you're daring teams to do, is essentially either hit a pull up over the length or hit a contested three with Clingan kind of running at you. And I think that Dickinson can, I mean, you've seen him better more in the system than I have, but I think that those are the two places that you can really use Hunter to his best.
Yeah, I mean, they like to move him around, use him around the elbows and around the middle of the floor as kind of a facilitator. And I mean, kind of like Connecticut's doing a similar thing with Clingan. Like they'll play through him at the top of the circle. So yeah, I think those shots are going to be there, and Harris knows how to engage the big guy and throw it out to him. So those pick and pops will be there. Now I think he took 3 in the first game. He made all 3 of them. He's been like 1 of 2 every game since, so he hasn't taken more than 2 of them. But this might be a game where he needs to maybe shoot 5 of them.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code $1,500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
In the first field of 68 tip-off, 3 of the preeminent mid-major programs in the country, 3 of the best coaches. November 30th, Liberty versus FAU. December 1st, Liberty versus Charleston. December 2nd, Charleston versus FAU.
3 up-and-coming programs come together in a very, very creative entity.
There's a reason we're called the Field of 68, right? We want to cover all of college basketball.
We are calling it the Field of 68 tip-off.
Yeah, and I think that he probably will. If you tell Hunter to shoot, I don't think he's one of these guys that's gonna not shoot. But he's the best. Like the thing that I know that there are people that hate him, right? And if you are not a Kansas fan, you probably hate him. But I think that he is great for the sport because he embraces being the heel, right? Like when people hated Grayson Allen didn't want to be hated. He wanted to be liked. He didn't like having everybody despise him, right? I don't think JJ Redick liked having everybody despise him. Hunter, like he thrives on that. He wants it. He trolls fans to get them to hate him. I think he loves it. He should really be a WWE wrestler, man. Like that's what he was born to do. Forget basketball. That's where his career is.
Samuel L. Jackson's tweeting about him. I mean,
that was so funny. That was so funny.
No, I think he feeds off it. Like he likes that energy and kind of like, I mean, the end of the first half against Kentucky is like the perfect example. You about got up on the scores table and cheered it on.
Yeah.
So
it was great. It was so good. It was so good. For the people that aren't aware of what CJ's referring to, at the end of the first half in Kentucky, Hunter Dickinson hit like a 28-foot three to cut the lead to 7.
I think.
The number one team in the country cut the lead to 7 at halftime, right? And he does this like celebration. Oh, it was so good. I was
curious how you're going to describe that. I guess the video.
It was the suck it. That's what he did. It was the 3-point suck it celebration. That's how you got to explain. Everybody knows what that is, man. If you're listening to this, you definitely have seen it before. So, you mentioned doubling when Caravan was in the post. I think that's where UConn might have a bit of an advantage here. Is that where you can really attack them defensively? Or where teams have really gone after them defensively has been Alex Caravan. It started last year. He got lit up by like Bryce Hopkins. He got lit up by someone else. By the end of the year, he was actually playing really well. He was playing much better defensively. And then this year, Malik Renault got him for 19 in the first game that they played. And then it was Dylan Mitchell got him for 21 in the Texas game. And I don't think that KJ Adams is the kind of guy that you can really just like isolate and go score. So I think that's one advantage that UConn does have heading into the fall here.
Yeah, I think, KU, one thing they have done is even though like, so last year KJ was at the 5 and they barely threw it into him on post-ups. This year, now that he's at the 4 and he's guarded by smaller dudes, they are trying to post him up some and like throw it over the top. So I think you could see some of that, but he is not like the offensive talent that a Malik Renault is. KJ is a little stiff when he's like attacking a guy one-on-one, trying to like finish over length and stuff like that. Like he's good on like short rolls and attacking that way. But if he's like going off the dribble, it seems like he doesn't finish at a super high rate. So yeah, I don't know that's like a huge concern for UConn. But I will be interested to see if they do try to, after watching the tape and seeing that, like, okay, maybe you can pick on him, maybe trying to throw it into KJ and get him to ride Caravan up the lane a little bit and try to get some of those easy duck-ins.
All right, let's talk about I mentioned Clingan and Dickinson. I think that this test and the test against Armando Bacot are going to be the two that really show me what Donovan Clingan is this year. He's been, he had the foot thing in the preseason, then he was sick when they were in New York for the Empire Classic. So we haven't seen him at his best against that level of competition yet this year. And for a guy that everyone had as a preseason All-American, I think this is going to be a chance for him to kind of say like, hello, everybody, I'm here. This is who I am in these next 2 games. Yeah. The other guy that I think is going to really have a test here is Tristan Newton. For my money, the dude's playing at an All-American level right now. He's averaging 16, 8 boards, and 7 assists right now for a team that is top 5 in America. Those are All-American kind of numbers. You know who he's going up against? DeJuan Harris, who is one of the best on-ball defenders you're going to find. And one of the, CJ, you're a point guard. You know this. When you get these pesky little dudes that can kind of like climb up under you and make it difficult for you to dribble, they're a pain in the ass to play against, man. And so I think we're going to learn a lot about Donovan Clingan here on Friday. And I think we're going to learn a lot about Tristan Newton on Friday as well.
I'm curious who Kansas. So I actually think it's possible. I'm not 100% sure, but I could see Kansas putting Harris on Cam Spencer and putting McCullough on Tristan Newton.
Why would you do that?
So I think Solomon Ball is going to get guarded by Marco Jackson. Like that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that Newton, he takes advantage of guys' size and can kind of like score in that like 10-foot range over people. And McCullough's length, I think, and McCullough plays with a lot of physicality. I think maybe is a better matchup and then, you run Cam Spencer runs around so many screens and does so much stuff off the ball. I wonder if that's a better, if DeJuan is better suited to chase him around. But you are asking so much. You're asking so much of both those guys on the other end, so like you don't want to tire them down too much, because Harris does a ton offensively, and so does McCullough. But to me, that kind of makes a little more sense, because I do think when it comes to Connecticut, like is so good running their actions and getting stuff off what they what they run. But I thought like the second half of that Indiana game, because the first half, like Indiana could not guard the pick and pops with Caravan at all. It was like they hadn't scouted them whatsoever. I do think Kansas, you would think a Bill Self team will like handle that better than Indiana did. But so to me, I think this game could come down to like later in shot clock, what do Cam Spencer and Tristan Newton do? And particularly, usually that's Tristan Newton. And I just wonder if McCullough just a better matchup for him. Now, I do understand. I think maybe it could be both. I understand what you're saying with DeJuan, because like you better be taking care of that ball when you have, because he's got really, really long arms, and you think you maybe are past the guy and he'll poke it away from behind. So yeah, either guy, like he's going to be challenged being guarded by either guy, but I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas comes out and matches up that way. Now they're going to switch a lot of stuff too. So, both guys could end up guarding them. But that'll be something to watch. Like the first couple of possessions, I'm curious who will be guarding who.
Yeah. The only reason I would put Harris on Tristan Newton is that I think Newton, it doesn't really matter how big the guy is. He's one of these guys where he can kind of absorb that contact and get to the line. And I think that keeping him from turning the corner and getting somebody on his hip, I just think it's a little easier to do that if you have a smaller defender that's going to be able to get around those screens. But hey, look, you know what? Both those guys, let's talk about Cam Spencer there, because I do think that he is one of the bright spots so far for UConn has been the fact that he's basically a de facto point guard for him.
Absolutely. Right? Like they're playing him when Newton's off the floor, he's playing point guard.
Yeah, and they have him even when Newton's on the floor. They have him like running off of DHOs and running off of ball screens, and he doesn't like. He looks like he's less athletic than I am, CJ, and he's still sitting here getting his shots, getting to the rim, making these plays. Yeah. He's such a basketball junkie, man. Like, and he's out of his mind competitive, right? And I love what we've seen from him. So I did not know he was going to be this good. Imagine if you switch Cam Spencer and Nick Timberlake right now, which could have been a possibility.
Oh yeah, or if Kansas ends up with Dalton Connect,
yeah, right,
instead of Nick Timberlake, because to me, like the two big winners, and obviously Kansas, but we knew like Dickinson was going to be good. But Tennessee getting Connect and UConn getting Cam Spencer. And you go back and look at mine and Sam's rankings. We had Cam really, really high. We were both fans. But yeah, he's just got such great feel. And I highlighted in my rankings this week, like his passing is really, really good. So, I mean, he makes point guard passes, like the little floating stuff he'll make to Caravan on the rolls. And, looking like, I think I put the one where he's looking off to the right and just fires a bullet to, on the roll to was it Sampson, their backup?
Yeah, it was Sampson, the no look pass. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was dirty. Like he's really, really good. And then he's basically can do the same things they got out of Jordan Hawkins, running off a bunch of screens, being able to shoot the hell out of it. He does that, and then he gives you a bunch of passing too. Like Jordan Hawkins was where'd he go in the draft? Like
he was 14th, and he's having a great rookie year too.
Yeah, he's really good. Like, and I don't know that he can quite, like, he can't come off as quickly and fire it like Hawkins could. But like
no one can, CJ. Like nobody can do it.
I could maybe make the argument he's more valuable to their offense because he can do so many different things, and like the way he can facilitate. He's really, really good. And the fact that I even would like contemplate bringing that up tells you how good he's been. Like, yeah, you could make the argument the other way, and I'd be like, okay, maybe I'm going too far. But the fact that
it's not.
I'm bringing that up, and you're not like, dude, you're crazy.
No, you're not. You're not. You're 100% right, because he also he brings the shooting that you need, right? And like to be frank, UConn's 3-point shooting has not been great this year. They're shooting under 31% from three on the season. Alex Caravan is 11 for 35, and Tristan Newton is 9 for 31. Like that ain't going to get it done. Hurley last night in his press conference goes, I need our guys to get off TikTok, to get off their iPhones, to stop gaming and get in the gym and practice shooting, because this isn't good enough. But
did he reference TikTok multiple times? Because didn't he say something about how Tristan Newton, people don't appreciate him?
Yeah. Yeah, that was like a week ago. He was like, yeah, people that watch highlights on TikTok don't know how good this dude is. And I think he might as well have called out Jeff Goodman on that one.
But my guy Cam Spencer, he's 47-8 from three. What do you want?
That's because the guy's too crazy. He doesn't go on TikTok. He doesn't have social media. Shooting 48% from three. Dude, he's 20. He hasn't missed a free throw yet, right? He's shooting 56% from two, and he's shooting 48% from three. Like, that's pretty good. That is pretty damn good. It's like a young T.O. in his prime, right? No, what I was going to say with
he's not jacking as many jumpers as T.O. is.
No, he's not. Happy. Nobody does. Nobody does. But I was going to say with Cam is that it's not just the shooting, right? Like he creates the floor spacing and has that presence where he can manipulate defenses just coming off a screen, but he also gets you the playmaking that you kind of lack a little bit with Andre Jackson gone. And if you go back and look at teams that won the national championships, I think like Kansas is the only one in the last like 15 years that didn't have 2 point guards on the floor at all times. Yes. The 2022 Kansas team. So having another guy that can do that is just as important as having a guy that can pull defenses away from the basket. Now, the X factor here is whether or not Steph Castle will play. He had we're recording this on a Tuesday. He had another doctor visit appointment set up. He was meeting with somebody today to evaluate his knee. And so I haven't heard anything about it yet. I doubt that I will hear anything concrete before the game actually starts. But I would operate under the assumption that he is probably not going to play, just because it's like one of those things where when you got a guy that's the lottery pick that's going to make 9 figures in his life, if he kind of keeps it all together and stays healthy, you're not going to force him back for one game because of a knee injury. They
have depth. They got depth too.
Yeah, I would bet on them playing it safe, but who knows, man? Maybe he's one of these guys that just heals quickly. Maybe he's on the Aaron Rodgers plan, CJ.
Maybe so. Yeah, I mean, he would give a different element to this, I think. But
he's their best.
They were targeting that game, though, right? I mean, that was the plan.
Well, so it's a 2 to 4 week injury or 2 to 4 week recovery from the procedure that he had. And 2 weeks from the procedure would be the day before the game. So that's, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think there's, again, like he had a meeting with the doctor literally like probably a couple hours ago. So we'll see what ends up happening there. All right. Last thing I got for you, CJ. I need a prediction on how you think the game will play out and what the X factor is. And then I want like an actual score winner prediction from you. So like what's X factor? How will it play out? And who do you have winning?
Well, I hope it's a really high level game because like it's been, I feel like I've been to some decent games so far because I was out at the Maui Invitational, I was at Champions, and like
you've been to a couple, like they were just okay, right? They were just okay games that you've been to.
But like every game has either been like with the high level teams, it's either been just like a total dud that like you don't want to watch, like Duke, Michigan State, Tennessee,
throw it out there, just burn that tape.
Gross
synergy.
Or they've been like really high level and pretty fun to watch. Purdue, Marquette was really good. Kansas, Kentucky was super fun. Like I could have watched 20 more minutes of that one. So I hope it's like played at a high level and like these teams are executing well. And I think they will. Like watching Connecticut so far, like they're a really good execution team and they know what they want. And same thing with Kansas. So I think it'll be a pretty high level game, game and runs, just because I think both these teams are pretty, like that's just who they are. X factor for me is when Connecticut misses, because while they are missing a bunch of 3-point shots, like it feels like they rebound every single one. And they send a lot of dudes to the glass. And I do think because they send so many dudes to the glass, you can get them in transition a little bit. I only got 11 minutes into the Texas game, to be honest with you, but that's where Texas was like scoring most of their points, was out in transition. I thought Indiana had some opportunities, but like was basically incompetent in transition. And so like, they were like early on in that game, they could have been up maybe 10 if they can just like run a fast break. And guard a pick and pop. So I do think, watching what in Kansas is a pretty good running team. So watching what they can do in transition and then watching, just basically what happens when Connecticut misses a shot. Is Kansas able to get out and run, or is Connecticut putting those back in? That'll be something, because Kansas hasn't been great to like long rebounds. You can kind of get them on 50-50 balls. I'm pretty sure that would be a critique of Bill Self so far of his team. Like he would say, we haven't been fast enough to 50-50 balls. So that's something to watch. As for a score, it's really, really hard to bet against Kansas in the fog. I think CAC is absolutely good enough to go in and beat them. And Hurley's like one of those guys that just like is going to have his dude so jacked to play and like have a belief that you can go in and win this game. His brother did it a few years ago. I'll say 76-73 Kansas.
You almost exactly got the KenPom score. KenPom has it at 76-74. All right. So
I did not look.
Yeah, I know. You wouldn't, if you had looked, you wouldn't have said those numbers. I know that. All right. So I think there are two things that go in UConn's advantage here. The places where you can really get at them defensively are their, like having a dynamic ball handler, because I don't think Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer are the best perimeter on ball guys, right? They're big, they're tough, they're physical, but if you have someone like we saw it in the second half with Tyrese Hunter, who kind of got wherever he wanted to go, got to the rim, got to the basket. That's part of why Texas made the comeback. You'll see it when you watch the rest of that tape. That's why Texas was able to make the comeback in the second half. Kansas doesn't really have that guy that like
got to be Kevin McCullough. I mean, McCullough's driving really well. Like he's slashing, like he is just putting his head down and like a running back, just you're gonna barrel through and get to the rim.
But he's not quite as like, it's not a
shake yet.
Yeah, it's not a shaky kind of a thing. Like Spencer and Newton are big enough and strong enough where I think that it's a decent matchup with McCullough, right? I think that I don't think that they're going to get embarrassed there. McCullough could very well win that matchup, but it's not something where I'm sitting there like, oh no, I don't know how they're going to stop that. You got to be physical and tough and win that matchup. So I think that is a check in the UConn column. I think that the fact that they don't really have a dude that can kind of isolate Alex Caravan is a check in the UConn column. But I would say that the key here is going to end up being Donovan Clingan. Like, you have to show up and be an All-American in this one, because you are going up against one of the two best players in college basketball that can do some things that can take advantage of maybe not necessarily your strengths. And if he shows up and he's fighting for position and he's blocking shots and Hunter Dickinson is not scoring in the post on him and he's able to get to those closeouts on the 3-point line and he wins that matchup with Dickinson, then I think that UConn wins this game. I think that's the swing factor for me right there.
How do you go ahead? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, what do you think about that? Is that crazy?
How do you think they guard Hunter with him? Like, is he playing behind? Is he trying to post? Is he 3-quartering? What do you think they do there?
I think that they will probably play behind. I think that all the pick and roll stuff is going to be drop coverage. And I think they're just going to say, you are one of the best defenders in the sport. Go stop him. Go win him. Go beat him one-on-one. And I think that Clingan, like, I think he's got it in his bag to be able to do it. My concern isn't like when Hunter gets it like one-on-one from 15 feet, I think Clingan, that's an advantage for Clingan. Where I think that Kansas can kind of win that matchup is the pick and pop stuff we talked about before. And like the sets that they run where there's like a million moving pieces and all of a sudden, boom, you got Hunter Dickinson sealing on the block and you got Clingan pinned up the lane. They throw a lob over the top and he just catches it and dunks it. Like that's where I think Donovan's going to have his work cut out for him there. And if he can win that part of the matchup and he can be really sound defensively and like they got the scout down and they kind of figure all that stuff out, that's where I think UConn has to be able to win this game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm going to be really curious to see how they guard the post ups. And I don't think they'll bring help. Like I wouldn't. I would see what he's got. The reason I asked you whether he'll front or like 3-quarter is that's where a lot of Kansas's turnovers are coming. And I want to go study it more, but I think that Hunter is he's not riding his guy up quite far enough to give them enough space to throw it and like not hit the rim or hit the backboard. You get what I'm saying? Clingan is so huge. Like you're going to have to get that ball up and off of him. That's why I'm curious. I wonder, I bet Connecticut's coaches are having those discussions right now. Do we try to make them throw it over our Bristol? What was it? Wall of Bristol?
Great Wall of Bristol.
Great Wall of Bristol. Do we try to use his length advantage there to make because they're already turning it over, or do we just put him behind and say, okay, Kansas, we're taking away all angled post ups because we're not even going to try to front. And let's see what Hunter's got. Can he go score over the top of him? So that's something to watch too. Is just how do they guard that early and how does that go? Because Clingan is probably the best low post. He might be the best low post defender in the country, right? Like that's what he should be if he's plays to his ceiling this year. So it's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited. Like I could care less about predicting the score. I want to see like how these two teams guard each other and how they play. Cause I do think Connecticut's really, really good, but I don't think they've played anybody worth the crap yet.
Yeah. I mean, the Texas matchup to me is the one where, especially in the second half, you can see where you can kind of get at them, right? Like Dylan Mitchell was doing what you need him to do, play a small ball 5 role, which by the way, like I think he would be absolutely terrific playing that role kind of full time.
Yeah, they're trying to play him at the small forward this year. No,
you got to put him. If you gave Bill Self, Dylan Mitchell, and the KJ Adams role last year, Dylan Mitchell would be a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Hot take.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was like that Texas team and those lineups and what we kind of saw there. I thought that was really good, but Indiana's not very good at all. And none of the mid-major, they just got completely overwhelmed. So, but yeah, it's going to be, I cannot wait for this game. It's going to be a fantastic game. 2 top 5 teams playing in the fog, playing on a Friday night, playing on ESPN. It's what college basketball needs, man. These are the kind of matchups that cut through the noise, CJ. These are the kind of matchups that get you on the Field of 68 Top Dogs podcast. My man, appreciate you being here.
Why aren't you coming are you coming to Lawrence? Where are you?
So we have the Field of 68 tip-off this weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We will be in Boca Raton.
You poor guy.
We got FAU Liberty on Thursday night. We got Liberty Charleston on Friday night. And we have FAU Charleston on Saturday night. All the games start at 6, which is perfect timing because I'll be able to watch the game. I told everyone this the other day. If you want to see me sweat out the end of that game, our show After Dark will be live at 11 o'clock on Friday night. this game tips off at 9:00 on Friday night. So I will be watching the end of Kansas UConn live on the air while trying to host a show, which will be interesting. And we'll see how that ends up going, CJ. But listen, my prediction is a UConn win. I'm saying that they're going into the fog and they're going to win. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be ugly. I think that they're going to win 62-58. That's my prediction.
I want the score. I don't care. I want the score in the 70s. Let's have at least 70s, maybe 80s. Let's have a fun up and down game. But you could be right. Like it could be ugly. We'll see.
Yeah, I just don't see the transition stuff happening too much. But yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. It's going to be a great game. I'm fired up for it. You'll be there, right? Courtside?
Oh, I will be there. Yep.
Courtside. So make sure you check out the stuff on The Athletic if you haven't already. And look, if UConn wins, we better get a great feature story about something UConn coming from you, CJ.
Whoever wins, I'll be writing about. It's the beauty of my job. I write about the winners.
Listen, CJ, it's always a pleasure, man. Good seeing you.
Thanks, man.